Mhm. I was reading this Mother Jones new magazine. Yeah. And excuse me. Yeah. Some interesting information here. Yeah. This is really geared towards those that are above average intelligence, or well, you're in law enforcement. I inform you of the crime of violating my civil rights. For the last 2 years and 11 months, you decided to fuck me over. You're going to do the same thing today because that's how smart you are. Well, how about that carbon tax with climate denier in the Washington White House? Can't wait for District of Columbia to act. Yes. Why shouldn't we tax the carbon of every corporation? I mean, this sounds like a foolproof plan to enrich the government at the cost of business. Yes. I've seen some of these political ads. Ooh, not very smart. I don't give a fuck if you are a doctor. Ooh, are you a woman? You're not programmed? Let me have your sexual nerve endings. When's the last time you had an orgasm? I know you're busy campaigning, isn't that right? And you're a woman, and you don't think the orgasm's important. But how did you get on each of those that you're on if you didn't come through them? See, most of the problems of all of this is the actual orgasm. Somebody decided they would fuck through each other, pooch, and every time you came on each other, it enables you to be on each other. Now, the orgasm isn't something that I've heard a lot of politicians talk about. Let's say Paul Budnick for president. Let's talk about the sexual nerve endings. Now, this carbon tax. What happens if I was to desalinate some ice? Well, this is the letter A. Let's look at the Arctic for just a second. You say that we need to have some more taxation. Right. This universal health care is not good enough. Ooh. I say that both your plans totally fucking suck. I don't think Washington State needs a state income tax. We make all that money off of lotteries. And if I was to attach all the lottery tax, well, I was to, well, did he really? Oh, I noticed some of the advertisements. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of them, but it seems like there's some real mudslinging going on out there. Isn't that right? Well, let's look at the Arctic. The encyclopedia. How many of us are electing those to office because of their actual intellectual ability? Shouldn't we require only smart people to be in office? Maybe a 125 or above IQ? I mean, have we really tested the intelligence quotients of those that are candidates for office? I thought you were fucking smart. You know, architecture. One of my favorite subjects. Could you get the architects of the United States? Yes. Seems like we have a lot of buildings that have these post and lintels. We have domed buildings known as state capitals. We have pediments, a triangular area between. I just want to know of all the assets that's owned by the United States of America, how is it possible that the architects of the United States federal government wouldn't think that I'd sue every fucking one of them? Now, as the individual, yes, that has talked to you about the United States Treasury and the assets of this nation, Pooch, I want to know every fucking architect right now in every location. Now, architecture is very important to the nation, isn't it? Have you been talking about that as candidates for office? Exactly how we should be designing buildings? I did see that news broadcast and I thought it was total fucking bullshit. We're going to redesign the schools because of some sort of seismic problem. Did you know that we actually live in a state of seismic issues? You're going to spend all this fucking money redesigning schools, you idiot. Now, the Arctic, yes, it's right here. Yes, it's melting. Oh, I know there's a seed bank up there, but I'm not concerned about that. This used to be frozen during the winter time. Yes, it was. You couldn't get a boat around there. Yes. Now, if I put a large steam, there's no possible way we could refreeze it, could we? Ouch. I think we could. See, I didn't want to use the seawater around it. Right. I thought that I would melt it. Uh-huh. And then the desalinator would go down, 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 maybe like 1,000 or 2,000 feet. Now, land and climate, oh, minus 60 degrees Celsius. What happens when you use 3 to 4,000 degree, oh, Fahrenheit, minus 76. Minus the winter temperatures minus 76 degrees Fahrenheit. If I was to put hot steam in the atmosphere at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, would that attract an immense amount of moisture? Or would it? Now, your carbon tax system is what? It's fucking stupid. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm one of those intellectual accused. Well, why don't we fix the global warming problem by freezing the Arctic? Yes. The Arctic Circle, oops, imaginary line that runs through the northern parts of Canada. Why don't you get me everything underneath the Arctic Circle? Yes. Because it seemed like somebody was using satellites and frequencies. Ooch, ooch, ooh. Well, what's your real plan? You want to get elected to office and you know about the violating of the Constitution. And you say that I can't sue you when you filled out a candidacy form? Now listen, good doctor. Okay. Are you a woman that has sexual nerve endings or not? Oh, you don't touch those, do you? Why not? You have to come to find out. You can't turn your sex on because if you did, what would happen? See, I realize what's really going on. All the candidates for office completely ignore their own sexuality. Yes, you spend all your time convincing the population why you should be elected, and then you use. Well, when's the last time you had an orgasm? Did you think that men only have orgasms? Because, as I remember it, women have sexual nerve endings. Do you think that I'm special as a man? That a woman couldn't have as many orgasms as I could have? Why don't you touch your clitoris and see if it works? Oh, you didn't want to come to find out. Well, why don't we melt Antarctica? Yes. And why don't we freeze the Arctic? And then let's look at the architecture of every state of the United States. Because Antarctica, there's an aquarium. Yeah. hmm There's antennas. Yes. Anthropology. Oh, well, what are you dumb fuckers doing with all the money? You're taking antidepressants or you're prescribing antibiotics. You're completely ignoring what's going on, and then you're saying elect me to office. Anthropology, Antarctica, Antar. Oh, there it is. Antarctica. Kind of. Oh, look at West Antarctica, East Antarctica. Now, what if we used all this ocean water, right, to desalinate at certain temperatures during the year? Yes, so as to cause hot air to be attracted and maybe melt this a little bit smaller, right? Releasing all that moisture into the atmosphere, and then we can move it up to the Arctic. And well, listen, I want my sons. Do you understand that? Now, I'm going to want to make some contributions to humanity. And for every state that thought a carbon tax was the answer, yeah, it's not. You know what the answer is? Adding water to the atmosphere. Oh, those 4 years certainly started me on the path to a life of seeking a better understanding, to better understand, seeking to better understand what it is to be human. I myself am on my personal journey of wanting to understand what it means to be human. And your family decided to just completely ignore the laws of the United States. Ooch. You're going to get elected to office. Oh, you're running. Oh, well, why don't you just let me look at your answer to the world's problems? Does it make any fucking sense what you're doing right now? We're just going to redesign all the schools. Is that what we're going to do? Maybe we should just turn off the volcanoes. uh, as a human, yeah, in humanity, yes. I'd like you to stop obstructing my use of my intelligence. I think we should melt Antarctica. Yeah, get it back to the size that it was about 25, 30 years ago before we started weather engineering. Yeah. And I think we should freeze the Arctic. Oh, and get that back to the size it was 25 years ago. And then we should replenish the freshwater supply. How does that sound to you, Governor? Give me the architecture and the architects of every piece of property in every state of the United States. For all your seismic proof, I would say that being completely fucking stupid